When my grandfather started forgetting things, no one panicked. At first, it was small. The kind of small you can explain away if you want to. He missed a dentist appointment and laughed it off. He paid the same bill twice and said the bank must have messed up. He called me by my aunt's name and then waved his hand like the mix-up was nothing. "You know what I mean," he said, smiling. The family called it aging, said things like, "That happens to everyone eventually," and "He's still doing pretty well, all things considered." Everyone was busy. Everyone had lives. I was the only one close enough to check in regularly. At first, checking in meant stopping by after work, making sure the fridge wasn't empty, asking, "You good, Grandpa?" and accepting his automatic, "Of course I am," even when it didn't quite ring true. Then it turned into grocery runs because he forgot what day it was and missed the store. Then into sorting mail because he couldn't remember what he'd already opened. Then into sitting with him at night when he got scared because he didn't recognize his own house. "I think someone moved my furniture," he whispered once, standing in the hallway in his pajamas, eyes wide and confused. "No one moved anything," I said gently, guiding him back to bed. "You're home. It's okay. I'm here." He looked at me like he wasn't sure whether to believe me or not. That look stayed with me longer than I wanted it to. I put my life on pause without ever formally deciding to. I just stayed. My siblings called occasionally. Holidays, birthdays, the kind of check-ins that came with updates about their jobs, their kids, their vacations. They always ended the same way. "You're amazing for doing all that," one of them said once. "I don't know how you do it," another added. "Grandpa's lucky to have you." They never said, "I'll come by this weekend." They never said, "Let me take a turn." They never said, "You look tired." I told myself it was temporary, that once things stabilized, we'd sit down and figure something out as a family. But families have a way of letting the same person carry the weight, quietly until it becomes normal. Caregiving doesn't look heroic up close. It looks like alarm clocks going off too early and you ignoring them because you were up half the night. It looks like canceled plans and unanswered messages and friends who eventually stop asking if you're free. It looks like falling asleep fully dressed on the couch because you're too tired to remember what rest used to feel like. I managed his medications, his finances, his appointments. I learned which pills had to be taken with food and which ones made him dizzy. I learned how to calm him down when he thought someone was stealing from him. "Check the drawers," he'd say, his voice tight with panic. "They were right there. Someone took them." "No one took anything," I'd say, even when my patience was running thin. "Let's sit down. We'll figure it out." Sometimes he'd ask, "Why don't my kids visit anymore?" That question hurt every time. I always said something vague. "They're busy," or "You know how life gets," or "They love you, Grandpa." I never asked my siblings for money, never asked for help beyond the occasional favor they were too busy to do. "Can you stay with him for a few hours so I can go to an appointment?" "This week's tough. Next time, okay?" There was always a next time that never came. Grandpa noticed more than I thought. One night, while I was helping him into bed, he looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have to do all this alone." I forced a smile. "It's fine. Really. We're okay." He frowned like he didn't believe me. "You're tired." "I'm just a little worn out," I said. "That's all." It wasn't all, but I didn't want him worrying. What I didn't know then was that he was paying attention to everything I tried not to say.
When Grandpa passed, the grief was real, but so was the tension. The house felt too quiet, too still, like it was holding its breath. At the will reading, my siblings were polite, somber, controlled in that way people are when they're trying to look respectful, but are already thinking about what comes next. The lawyer cleared his throat and started reading. The house went to me. The majority of his savings went to me. The rest was divided evenly, but with a letter attached. A letter Grandpa had written himself. The lawyer read it out loud, Grandpa's words careful and steady even on the page. He wrote about how I showed up when things were hard, how I stayed, how he wanted to make sure I was protected the way I had protected him. The room went very quiet. Too quiet. Then someone said, "That's not fair." Another voice followed. "He must have been confused." Someone else, "You were with him all the time. You could have influenced him." I sat there, stunned, realizing that my presence was being rewritten as strategy. I started, but no one was really listening. "You isolated him," one of them said. "You took advantage," another added. "He wasn't in his right mind." I looked at them and thought about the nights I slept on the floor outside his room, the mornings I cleaned up spills and mistakes and messes that no one else saw. None of that seemed to count. After the will reading, the messages started. Some were subtle, some weren't. "I can't believe you'd do this. This isn't what he would have wanted. You should do the right thing." One sibling said they were going to contest the will. Another said they'd never forgive me unless I made it right. Made it right. As if love was something you could redistribute evenly after the fact. No one asked how many nights I slept on the floor outside his room, how many times I held his hand when he cried, how many pieces of myself I put aside to keep his life intact. They talked about money like it was the only thing that mattered. What hurt most wasn't the greed. It was the erasure. The way care was dismissed because it didn't come with receipts or witnesses. I didn't ask Grandpa for anything. I didn't expect to be protected. But he saw what no one else wanted to see. That care has a cost, and someone always pays it. The inheritance didn't make me rich. It made me stable. It gave me room to rebuild the life I paused. Some siblings don't speak to me anymore. Others tolerate me with a bitterness they refuse to unpack. I've stopped defending myself because I know the truth. I didn't take anything from them. I gave something to him, and in the end, he made sure that didn't leave me empty-handed.